Well, you're all very welcome to another episode of the Business of E-commerce podcast with the big man himself, John Leach. Tall man, big man. Where are we on that, John? What am I going to call you from now on?
Oh, I'm sticking with tall, Brendan.
Okay, tall is good. He definitely is tall. Now I know you're looking at him sitting down here. Anybody that's viewing, but yeah, he's taller than me, and that's tall in my book. And then we have a great panel, as always, on this podcast, John. We have really great business people from Ireland who are in the business of e-commerce, and they're each going to tell us how they're getting on, and they're going to give us insights from the coalface of the industry itself. We've got Aisling Finn, who's the managing director at the Book Resort. We've got Sean Broderick. He is the head of product marketing at eDesk. We've got Joe O'Connell, who's head of e-commerce and marketing at Buildforless.ie. And we've got James Statham, who's the product owner at the AA digital product team. So you're all very welcome and looking forward to chatting to you all. But first, today, John, let's talk about the fact that on this program, on this podcast, nearly every episode, we have a mix of businesses that are businesses that started up just purely as e-commerce, and others that maybe were bricks and mortar business and had to adapt and move and change into it. So let's talk today about the digital transformation of your business. If you're just making that huge transformation, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think, Brendan, it's certainly been, it's been the dominant theme in many ways for the last 30 or 40 years, not just the last 18 months. It's been maybe heightened within the public mind and public consciousness, since the pandemic and how that's accelerated some of these changes. But we've seen whole industries changed, by the advent of digital versions of themselves. And the world has really changed beyond recognition because of that. The obvious things are music records have been replaced by Spotify playlists, newsaid or newspapers and magazines, not entirely, but have largely for some generations been replaced by a social media newsfeed of some description. And you look at something like Airbnb, which is a valuation bigger than any of the hotel chains without owning a single hotel or bedroom. You have Amazon in the retail space, et cetera. So, whether these changes are good or bad, or the implications of them, that's probably for a different episode and a different debate. But the direction of travel, I think, is very clear in terms of transforming your business, whether it's an online business or not. Bringing digital services and digital capabilities to bear on it is really important for successful and growing businesses going forward. And e-commerce is just part of that. I think we've talked, and I think today will probably be something similar. Where, we've talked to a lot of people, and I've worked on a lot of projects where they sort of fall into two camps, if you will. Businesses that would never have existed without e-commerce capability, and they've been digital from birth. And secondly, sort of businesses which are adapting to take advantage of these new capabilities that are available to improve their business by either making them more efficient, improving customer experience. And to me, these are all in equal measure digital transformation projects. And I think to be successful, you have to understand three domains within your business. And I'd like to think of them as the three C's. I've been talking about this since the late 90s in many ways. And they're content, collaboration, and commerce. And businesses very often want to go straight to the commerce piece, cut to the chase sort of thing. Where they're transacting online or wherever. But if they don't understand and become really good at the first two, then they're building on what I consider to be sort of shaky foundations. Content is one of the real key founding elements or information of any digital business or any digital process. And that's all about understanding the information you have in your business and how to use it properly. And it might be expertise in your product or service area. It might be knowledge and understanding of your customers. But in this day and age, knowledge or information or content, if it's used correctly, it truly is power. That's always been the case, but it's now on steroids, I think, in this environment. And what the digital age has brought to play or to bear on this is the ability to access and share knowledge in a fundamentally different way, in a much more available and easy way. And that's the key to why so many industries and business models, have been disrupted, or indeed will be disrupted as we go forward. So to me, that act of sharing knowledge is the second area that we need to be good at is collaboration, and collaboration sort of defines service for me. How do I work together with my customer to solve their problem, satisfy their need, help them? And we expect businesses to do that today, and we expect them to do it in a seamless sort of fashion. And if we look at the one thing that probably defines a successful e-business or e-commerce business, it's got to be service excellence, because our competitors are only one click away. You have no pricing is very transparent. There are very few competitive advantages you can bring to play. It has to be either service, knowledge, selection, these types of things. And we also sort of we have a tendency as consumers to trade privacy for convenience, which may get us into trouble down the road. And I think that's becoming an increasing debate and needs to become an increasing conversation with everybody. But to me, the best way to build trust is to collaborate with somebody. And trust is what really underpins the third step of the process, which is commerce. Because without commerce, or without trust, there's no commerce. It's what makes organizations work. It's what makes society and economies work. And without having trust in your brand reputation, there will be no commerce, either online or offline, for that matter. And that's what happens. Commerce is what happens. You put two parties together who are able to help each other and both trust each other. So to my mind, like we talk about digital transformation, and people talk about it in very grandiose terms. But I think to digitally transform your business, to make it into one that works in this new digital economy, which we're absolutely living in these days, it's about having processes and systems that allow you to access the information you need easily. And that can be product descriptions, it can be your product catalog. And then it's about connecting all those different sources together so that when a B2B customer, for example, shows up, they get whatever negotiated discounts they're entitled to automatically. They can place orders either online at their convenience to be collected or to be delivered, and in the way that works for them. It turns the business dynamic almost inside out. And then when something goes wrong, which inevitably it does, the business has to be able to join the dots and get the problem solved quickly and efficiently for that customer. That gives you the service element. So I think if you to do these things successfully, then you have an e-commerce business. And that's the essence of I think the guys who are being successful, and I use that in the plural sense of the word, going forward. They take those core competencies of knowing what's important in terms of information, knowing how to work with their customers, and then delivering that to them in the most efficient way. And that's how you build a world-class e-commerce business, and it starts from those basics. I think no matter how small or how big you are, Brendan.
Okay. That's all very interesting, and the points you make, I think, John, in terms of the three key pillars, the content, collaboration, commerce. I think we've got great examples of great content from the guys here. But I'm sure they're going to talk to us as well about the challenges, and maybe it varies in terms of the size of the business. If you've got a big team that can really deliver content and all of that, it can be easier than being a smaller business that struggles in that kind of a way. So let's go straight and dive straight into chatting to the guys. And let me go first to Aisling Finn of the Book Resort. Aisling, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and about the business, and then tell us about the challenges and anything you can pick up from what John has said.
I think John is very right on a lot of what he said, first of all. So my name is Aisling. I'm based in Waterford, and I set up the Book Resort back in almost 2 years ago, October 2019. And it started off originally as a book subscription company. And what we do is we send out, every month we send out boxes with a book, a big bar of chocolate, and a little gift in it. And this little gift tends to be things like soap, shampoo bars, hand creams, lip balms, bath salts, and then there's different items then for men then as well. what happened with us was people started looking for once-off gifts. So we started doing that. And then COVID hit. And we were really lucky that we had our courier set up. We had our website set up. We had our boxes sorted. We had a lot of relationships already built. So we were literally ready to grow when COVID hit. So when COVID came, a lot of people started asking immediately for a lot more stuff. Now that was it, that's brilliant, but it was challenging as well because nobody knew what was happening, and a lot of our suppliers were temporarily closing their doors. So that was a fun time.
Yes.
um, yeah. But what we did was we had to pivot from mainly doing subscriptions to mainly doing gift boxes.
Okay.
So they wanted more stuff, more. They wanted bigger boxes, they wanted more boxes, they wanted boxes for kids, they wanted boxes for men, they wanted to send boxes abroad. So we literally, like, if I had one word to describe them, it would be hungry. Hungry for more because they couldn't go out, they couldn't leave, they couldn't buy anything, but they still wanted to touch base with those they loved. So that's where we were able to step in. So now at this stage, we're about 50-50. We do like half subscription boxes and half gift boxes.
Yeah.
So every day we'd have a number of gift boxes going locally, nationally, and internationally as well.
Hmm.
The foundation is still the same. It's still books, chocolate, and gifts. It's just that our range is much, 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 much bigger than what it was 2 years ago.
Hmm.
But we were one of the companies that did benefit because, like I said, we actually had everything set up. Now, I'd love to say that I planned that, but that was just good timing, really, because I saw other businesses trying to start up in the middle of COVID. And that was so difficult because they couldn't source things. We had everything sourced.
Hmm.
We were able to grow, we were able to talk to other businesses and find other businesses as well. So that's where we are now at the moment. Now we're going into Christmas. Sorry for mentioning the C word now, but
Yes.
I'm sure you're all used to it. What I'm finding difficult this year about
Hey,
Christmas
sorry,
is,
Aisling, I didn't know we were going into Christmas now. You have me in an awful panic. I have children at home, and I haven't given Christmas a thought yet.
yeah, that's okay because we're all thinking about it. So when you
Yeah.
go looking for a present in December, John, we'll have it all sorted. But one of the
Yeah.
challenges for Christmas this year for us is we had two Christmases so far. The first
Yeah.
Christmas was really good. The second Christmas was absolutely crazy. We
Mm.
don't know this Christmas. We're finding it difficult to project in order
Yeah.
for. We don't know, will this Christmas be as bad? Will it be as good? Will there be lockdowns? Will the economy be as good? So that's where our kind of challenges are at the moment, is kind of projecting for the future for like Christmas and for next year. So yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest challenges we're having. I'm basing it off last year, but yeah, it's really hard to
Well,
predict.
it comes back to the old financial services ad, isn't it? Past performance is no guarantee of future
No,
performance.
it's not.
And there have been
Absolutely.
so many changes in the metrics in terms of even when people access stuff, how they're accessing. Like we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and trying to understand those long-term trends has been one of the challenges with a number of clients over the last 18 months. It's beginning to settle a little bit this year, but it's still things that
Oh,
you would have looked at and predicted and built off. You're feeling a little unsure about.
yeah.
Um,
And we don't even have those because we were so new when all this happened. I don't even have like 5 years prior performance that I
yeah,
can
but
guarantee or count on or use. So yeah, but it's good because I do feel like our brand is really starting to get out there again. Like our coverage, because so many people got on board with support local, that we did get an awful lot of press coverage and media coverage. We were really, really lucky. So I do feel that we will be as busy at least. It's hard to know and we can't
yeah.
guarantee it.
And I think gifting is almost a new industry, and maybe that's just me. I hadn't come across it as much, but if you look at the variations, and like we've several people that we've worked with, about so online gifts, and is certainly, I think, a really booming sector. Given the evidence of the number of people who are now doing it and being successful at it.
And John, what the book resort reminds me of, and we've had a few examples here. It's nice to see you kind of pivoted according to the need that came from your customers, didn't you? And you sort of shaped the business along according to that need.
Yeah.
And we've seen examples of that, haven't we? And
Yeah.
especially into gifting.
Like, for example, we had one client or one participant here a couple of weeks ago, where they were mainly in the hen party sort of business, if you like, in terms of gifts for hen parties. And of course that disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
So they moved into a much broader, I think that's the thing about being able to be flexible and make those changes.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the subscription service, because subscription is equally something that many businesses are trying to grow, and because one of the challenges is at smaller average order values, less than 50 euros, to try and drive a successful e-com business and grow it. It's challenging, right? So I guess subscription services give you an opportunity to grow the lifetime value of a customer if they're getting something regular every month. How is that? That's now that's still 50% of your business, Aisling, sort of saying that's obviously growing and doing well for you, right?
It is, and the subscription model it's a wonderful model, because like that, it comes, what you have to look at is the lifetime average value of the customer. Like that, under 50 euro, if you're selling once-off items for under 50 euro, it's going to be hard to have a sustainable business model at that, because you have to bring in so many new customers. But when we have subscriptions, obviously we can build on that, and those customers then, they trust us. They engage with us, they interact with us, they leave reviews. We have a book club, they get involved with that. We have a blog, we use email marketing. So we don't let them go, if that makes sense.
And it gives you a level of predictability, maybe that in part of the business that helps you plan for the other half. Yeah,
it can do. And like, the subscription model is great, especially when it's quieter, like say the summer months and that. So it gives you're able to base your kind of, I suppose, as well, all your suppliers, you're able to plan out a lot better with the subscriptions as well than you would be with the once-off kind of gift boxes. So it's brilliant to be able to balance both of those. But I would recommend the subscription model to businesses, if at all possible. The only thing is it's not as easy as it seems. It's a whole new different ballgame. Like, every month you have to be seriously organized. Like, we have to be very careful with the books that we send people. The chocolate has to be different, the gifts have to be different, the right card has to go into the right boxes. And that's grand when you have 10 or 20 or 50. But when you start scaling, and you need to scale to make this work, you need to scale. And it's one of the first pieces of advice I got was, how big do you want to be? And I was like, oh, not really that big. But now I'm like, yeah, I want to be enormous, because you need volume. And Ireland can be hard to get volume because our population is so small as well. So we would like to kind of maybe start targeting, international customers a bit more as well. That was just a bit difficult with COVID because there were so many restrictions. So we put that one on hold for the time being. But definitely, like, to bring the stuff that we have, which is all Irish, it's all artisan, people love it. I'd love to be able to bring that to international customers, because I think so many people would love it.
Well, listen, I think getting a book and chocolate, no matter where you are, will go down well. So you have a future internationally. Let's talk to Sean Broderick, who is a Galway man stuck in Dublin. Sean, how are you? And I really want to hear about eDesk and how eDesk helps with e-commerce.
Thanks, Brendan. Thanks for having me on. Like you say, I am the head of product marketing here at eDesk. I joined in April. Prior to joining eDesk, I worked for some great Irish companies like Altify, OpenNet, Aircom, and UPC, which is now Virgin Media. So a good mix across telecoms, technology, software, and now really chuffed to be in e-commerce with eDesk. We're an e-commerce help desk. We're purpose-built for online sellers, and we allow customer queries from about 70 different marketplaces, web stores, email, social integrations, and we consolidate all of those into one place. So it's really a centralized inbox for all your support needs. We are on the Amazon Developer Council, and we will have native integrations to Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and a multitude of other marketplaces and web stores like Wish and Shopify and places like that. So it's really about taking all of those queries into the one place, reducing the time to serve for online sellers, and really helping them scale their business through great customer support, because a little bit like Aisling was talking about there, just those influx of queries that come in. Sometimes when you get to scale, they can become quite unwieldy. And if you're selling on multiple marketplaces, what we see from a lot of our customers is that they're logging into the Amazon Seller Center, they're logging into eBay, they're logging into Instagram and Wish, and trying to manage all those queries in different places. It just doesn't work when you're trying to scale up a business and when you're trying to grow a business outside of existing markets. So one of the points that you made earlier, John, which I thought was really interesting, was this piece around partnerships and how you actually, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go together. And we would really see that with our technology partnerships and integrations as well, whereby we take those integrations that we have in our marketplaces and we really use those as differentiators for our customers, so that we know if somebody wants to start selling on the Wish marketplace or wants to start selling on eBay, that they can quickly scale up their customer support to manage that. So those have been, I guess, some of the kind of key differentiators for us. As regards what's been happening over the past year, obviously it's been a bananas year for e-commerce in general, but for us, it's really all about the growth of marketplaces. It's all about the growth of Amazon, Wish, places like Etsy taking over Depop. We've also added the new Wish marketplace as well this week. And we're also looking at integrations with Wix and other web stores like that. So I think that kind of proliferation of channels and different marketplaces that online sellers, it's a brilliant way to scale. It's not easy. I think that's why not everybody does it, but I do think it's a brilliant way for kind of people to kind of grow their reach and grow their market.
And certainly the penalties for delivering bad customer service on something like Amazon is quite severe. So you absolutely have to be on top of that game if you're in that.
It's a great idea, John, isn't it? Because customer service it's very tough, and it's a huge part of e-commerce. I'd be curious, your own customer base then, Sean, are they a complete range of sizes, or does it suit the smaller store?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, we have about 5,000 customers worldwide, mostly outside of Ireland. The US and the UK would be our biggest markets, with decent coverage then across EMEA and a little bit in APAC as well. Our customers would range from companies like Argos, Sennheiser, Toyota, companies like that, all the way down to much, much smaller businesses who would focus on Amazon specifically or eBay specifically. So all the way down to 2 or 3 or customer or companies that would have 2 or 3 support agents on their books. So we probably span all of those different areas and would have a more self-serve type approach for those smaller customers, and then a higher touch support with dedicated customer success managers for those larger enterprise customers. I think some of our largest customers, companies like carparts.com, would have agents over the 100 mark. So just places that are doing phenomenal amounts of volume online. And I think the US, in terms of volume and growth, is a whole different ball game when it comes to e-commerce. Yeah, and I think as well, those kind of, as you see now with the shipping and supply crunch, there's not a whole lot an e-commerce business can do to make those containers come over faster from China or move across borders as fast as they want them to go. But the thing they can do is be proactive in their customer communication and make sure that people know exactly where it is. So when you have those integrations and that views of this is when the customer ordered, this is when it's likely to deliver, you can be proactive and let them know when it's coming and get ahead of those delays. I think that's why, to Aisling's point earlier on, that kind of Christmas in August or Christmas in September is so important, because people are reading about this on independent.ie, they're reading about it on all the technical websites. They know that this supply crunch is here, the consumer knows it, brands know it, and people are going to start ordering earlier and earlier. And that's where we're seeing that volume of tickets go up, because I think last year about 1 in 8 customers who made a purchase online interacted in terms of support. In 2021, it's 1 in 6. So that growth of interactions that people are having with the brand, self-serve is not as common as you would like it to be, because really, like you say, with those shipping elements, the interactions that you have around delays, orders, returns, all of that really goes up in a year like 2021.
And the other thing, Sean, I often say to some, like, without, you can't have we talk about customer relationships, CRM systems, but you actually can't have a relationship without interactions, right? And whether they're nice and smooth online, or whether they're talking to an agent, or, you know, you're interacting with a business in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I always, I mean, I'm not, you know, Brendan knows, but I'm not a fan of the utility experience, you know, or even some of the large digital age, you know, big guys trying to actually find how to contact them either via chat or phone. They make you jump through some hoops before you can actually get to that point.
Yeah.
And the logic being is they don't want to deal with it, you know, go figure it out yourself, sort of thing, and then hopefully the last resort. And I always think that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
It's almost turn around the other way. Get talking to them quickly, get it solved quickly, and then instead of having 6 interactions, you only have 2. And when something goes wrong, which it does, and it will do, the best way to turn that customer into a raving fan is just be really good at dealing with it, because I think that solidifies the relationship very often. It's when we want to work with businesses who have our back, you know, when something goes wrong. I think that's a huge part of building a loyal customer base.
That's right. And I think as well, like, people's tolerance for how long they're willing to wait to get in front of somebody is really, really reducing. So that standard 24-hour SLA over email is maybe not going to cut it in the same way it might have before. And consumers these days are so well informed. When you have an issue, you've probably gone to the site already. You've probably tried to get someone in chat. You've probably tried the SMS channel as well. The reason you're picking up the phone in 90% of cases is because you need to talk to somebody. And, you know, I'll give a plug for one of our own new integrations, which is launching next week. It is with AirCall, and it's a cloud voice service that we're integrating those calls directly into our eDesk support center, so that the agents who are managing the chats, the emails, the social queries that come in that are integrated into eDesk can now take those calls as well. Because like you say, I think about 60% of consumers in the US and EMEA prefer to use voice, or prefers to use a call when they're interacting with an e-commerce brand. And like you say, you want to turn them into a raving lunatic, you've got to talk to them, whether it's by email or by voice. You have to do it.
And please don't torture me with 65 options on an IVR. You know, that always seems to come back to the same point, you know.
And then get diverted back into the chat and into the SMS, and then back to the call again. It's a terrible experience.
Yeah, not good.
And listen, Sean, there's plenty of raving lunatics down our way, so you know there's not a whole lot of turning to go there. Let's talk to Joe Codila. Joe, you're the head of e-commerce at Buildforless.ie. That's the number 4, Buildforless.ie. Tell us about Buildforless.ie, and then tell us about yourself and how you got into the business.
Perfect. Yeah, a description I like for Build for Less in terms of what we sell is, if you could go outside and physically lift up your house, turn it over and give it a shake, anything that's still left in your hands, that's what we generally sell. Anything that's still stuck in place. So you're talking your floors, doors, plasterboard, timber, slates, all the kind of construction materials, I suppose. So we wouldn't exactly be like Woody's in terms of being a classical hardware store. So yeah, I mean, the story of Build for Less, I mean, Brendan, you mentioned transitioning from e-commerce to offline sales and vice versa, from offline to online as well. The guys originally bought Clondalkin Builders Providers, and they subsequently took on 3 more stores. So Newtown Builders Providers in Coolock, Blackrock Builders Providers in Blackrock, and Quality Builders Providers in Ringsend. They purchased Build for Less to actually be an e-commerce only store. So when I came into the business, I said to them, you're immediately closing sales channels there. There's plenty of your offline customers that want to shop online, so they want to be given that option. And there's plenty of your online customers that actually want to shop offline in terms of click and collect, or even getting into their van or car and driving out to the store and purchasing the product that they've seen online. So keeping them both separately is actually costing you guys in a lot of ways. So yeah, that was the project that I was brought in to do, was to essentially create a website that brought the store network together. that allowed customers to know as well. I mean, informational stuff like, okay, I'm a Clondalkin customer, but if I'm doing a job up in Coolock, I can actually shop in the Coolock store as well.
Yeah.
And also bringing the stock integration into place. So we transitioned originally, the website was built on Magento 1. So we transitioned it onto Magento 2, and then also linked the stock system into place as well. So previously, if you saw a product, you could buy it. Whether or not the product was actually in stock was not always the case. Whereas now it's completely linked together. If there's a price change or price increase, which is unfortunately has been happening in the building sector recently, particularly around timber. Once the guys from the purchasing department up the price, it's up across the website as well. A customer can choose, rather than just home delivery, they can choose click and collect now, and they can choose what store they actually want to go in and purchase that. And we've actually found that a lot of customers, they see that, okay, that length of timber is in stock down in Ringsend, so they get into the van and know it's going to be there when they go down there. So there's that degree of confidence. So it's expanded sales channels in terms of click and collect, but it's also expanded to be an informational portal that potential customers will go to, and they know they can get that tin of paint down whatever store it is. I suppose in terms of sales channels, for us and for our type of customers, we're kind of going towards what we would call the more advanced DIY user. So someone who's confident enough to put a nail into their wall, or do something a bit more advanced than just painting. So that's really our target market. I mean, you spoke earlier on in terms of, it was yourself, John, in terms of resources. I mean, we're not a huge company, so we don't have endless resources. We don't have content writers working around the clock, and we don't have huge budgets. So to deploy our resources, human and financial, I suppose, in the best possible way, I suppose, like, social media, it's fantastic, but it eats up time, eats up money. If we're, putting a post up or an advertisement on social media, and it's skim coat, and someone sees it, they don't then decide, oh, I might need to skim my wall.
Yeah.
So basically, we thought about the search engine. I always remember something a lecturer said to me before: there's never really been an advertising tool where a customer can look for what they want, and you can jump up and say to them, I have that at this price, and that's the search engine. So we thought that was definitely the best channel in terms of human resources investing in. So with SEO and PPC, that's where we've invested in majorly. We've had huge success. I mean, bringing the click and collect on board has obviously helped as well, but since I came in, we're up 130% in turnover on the website. But there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah.
All of our planed all over timber was actually called Tanalith timber, which is an industry term.
Right.
No one's putting that into a search engine.
Yeah.
So just changing the name of that, I mean, even for someone searching it on the website and searching it online, it's a no-brainer, but it's just maybe something that was overlooked. And like a lot of the times, like, our product file is 2,500. So I suppose when we were discussing it, we were saying that it's a little bit like the name escapes me now, but the bridge in San Francisco, where they start painting it, and by the time they finish, they go back and paint the other end. That's what our product file is like, and I suppose with new stuff that we've added to the product file and to the website, in terms of letting people know how long the length of timber is, letting people know the weight of a particular product, and also just to open up sales as well. I mean, you can imagine a lot of our stuff is actually bulk. So it's a big bag of aggregates. It's 16-foot lengths of timber. You're not going to send that out with Fastway. So we have our own,
or even on post.
We have our own team of drivers. There's special vans that they use to actually take the bulk bags off the back, the ton bags, and set them down. But there was a lot of customers coming onto the website who just wanted maybe a tube of silicone. So we wanted to be able to service or open that sales channel as well. So what we've done is we've labeled every single product that they're large or that they're small. So if someone adds a small item to their carts and they know it's a small item, they know that delivery be $6.50 and it's nationwide delivery. If it's a ton bag, but you have to tell the website because it needs to know what it's going to charge. So we had to add that in on 2,500 products. And sometimes you're kind of pushing it whether a product actually almost meets. So you need to know the sizes and weights of all of the products. And with 2,500 mightn't sound big, but believe me, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it,
I wouldn't fancy it. Yeah.
But I think, Joe, you've the right approach to it in terms of people sometimes think they can do a once-off exercise and it's done. It's never one and done. It's a constant improvement, and that goes for your SEO stuff as well, as you probably well know. Google loves fresh, new content, updated content. So you have to. Very often we're talking with clients and say, look, you have to understand what your budget allows you to invest in this area, but you need to be planning to do it for the next 3 years, not for the next 3 months. So set off at a pace like running a marathon that you're comfortable with, that you continue to improve. And over time, small actions, the right small actions, add up to a really good result. And I think for many, I think you made another good point that social has an important part in the place in terms of brand awareness and talking to certain audiences. But for many pure e-com stores, paid search, like Google paid search done right and SEO done right accounts for 50 to 55% of their revenue and traffic. That doesn't mean you can ignore the other channels because they form an important part of filling that funnel and getting the right searches. But my general philosophy, like you, I think, is optimize and max out PPC and SEO first, and then start to expand your reach into all the other, retargeting, display, and other traffic measures as well. But if you get those two core right, you're going to reap the benefits from the other activities as well.
Yeah, and in some small businesses, and particularly the builder provider side of things, you really need to show people the value of the website first. And then you get the further investment. You get the staff in to do the social media, or you get the agency in to do the social media. And the quickest way to get to that kind of to show people the value is really taking advantage of the search engine in terms of PPC and Google Shopping as well. We use that as well.
Yeah, and it's one of the things, huge growth areas over the last 18 months I've noticed is the importance and value of shopping. They've really improved it. It's now half the traffic in most search campaigns, and better, typically cheaper CPCs and decent conversion rates. So it's a good mix. It's a good mix.
Yeah. And just one thing I'd pick up on there, John. You mentioned content as one of the key pillars there, and Joe has made a very good point in terms of, listen, where are you going to find the time or the resources or anything? But am I right in thinking this? Because you'd work with a lot of companies now and advising them, John, in terms of their PPC and all of that. But it seems to me some of the work that Joe has done in terms of even renaming.
That's content work. That's content work. You're in the content business, whether you like it or not.
It doesn't have to be long spiels of text.
No,
it's just about getting the framing and correct.
It's knowing exactly, whether it's what's exactly in the box. Like for Ashton's sort of business, it's knowing that it's a 4.8 meter length of whatever. It's because that's the frustration you have. You're looking at this thing and you're trying to figure out, is that where I'm actually looking to buy? So content is all about product. I mean, for an e-commerce store, product descriptions is your content. That's your first. Get that right, and you have a fighting chance. I mean, if you sort of skimp on that and don't do that correctly, you're behind the 8 ball all day long. So fixing product descriptions and when you start feeding it through from an inventory system, Joe described what is a classic problem you come across. That internal system has descriptions that the professionals, that the experts, that the procurement managers know what the hell an A26, B64, whatever is, and they know that automatically. But me as a even a DIY enthusiast or a consumer has no clue what they're talking about.
You have to
Yeah.
think
So you-
like a punter. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to convert those descriptions to something the consumer understands.
It's fun.
Joe, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it's funny, but there is a balance as well, and there's a few unexpected things like, and we use SEMrush whenever we're naming products or wherever we're doing descriptions,
Right,
just to see what people are actually looking for. And a bag of hardcore. And we thought 804 was an industry term, but it's used a lot on search engines. So even adding that in has really upped the traffic on that particular page. And just for us as well. We, as you imagine, we have a lot of suppliers, whether it's the timber supplier, whether it's the aggregate paint, whoever it is. So, when I first came in, I made sure to kind of set up meetings with all the suppliers, making sure that we're getting images and making sure that the person who pays the bills, who's the purchasing department, making sure that they're on top of them and putting a bit of pressure on them to get the images across. Because without that and without
you can't afford to go creative. Yeah, and that's a really good, and my previous role, I was in the other side. I was the manufacturer, and syndicating all those images, those descriptions, the thing that's the reason I have no hair left, right? It was because we had a huge catalog, and you had to. But if you didn't do it, all of your partners, rightly so, were up in arms, and we spent an awful lot of time trying to get that right, and trying to get a mechanism for getting that shipped out on time. Well, and it's a really, really important part of the ecosystem.
I've been working in the building industry for doing e-commerce for it's almost 6 years now anyway. And I mean, some of the suppliers have come on light years. I remember when I first started, I was uploading boilers, and I asked for a picture of one of the boilers, and they sent me on a picture of the boiler in a flatbed lorry. To put up on a website. But I mean, companies like Bostik and B&G have really embraced it now, and they've all got fantastic descriptions. Now I like to change them up, as I said. Copy and pasting is basically duplicating content that other websites have, so try and change it up in parts to make it a bit original.
Listen, I'd like to swoop over to what looks like Paris, but is actually Waterford. And that's a commonly made mistake, I hear. James Statham, you've got a very interesting story to tell in terms of your e-commerce journey, and you're a product owner at the AA Digital Product Team. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about that journey?
Yeah, sure, Brendan. Yeah. So I seem to have something in common with everybody here. I suppose my background is quite varied in terms of e-commerce. I currently work for the AA as part of a digital team, as part of a digital transformation in insurance. So an intangible product that's quite complex, has a lot of regulatory kind of requirements. But my background, I suppose, in e-commerce goes back to 2012. I started and ran an online meal planning service and a nutrition business. So a physical product, like Aisling, we were, delivering out customized boxes to people, very hands-on. We also got into subscriptions and things like that. So I did that for a number of years, built that up literally from my kitchen table, my own laptop, to a small team of people, grew the business organically through Shopify, the Shopify e-commerce software, which is, extremely powerful, has a lot of functionality, even up to enterprise level now. So I did that for approximately 5 years. Grew the turnover, all B2B sales, to approximately 400,000 revenue in the final year profitably, which was extremely challenging. And as we've touched on, customer service was, for a small business who is trying to do everything, package the product, customer service, marketing, it was extremely challenging. And I think even back then, I think the challenge now is still the same. We have such limited time. All of us have the same 24 hours per day, but how you prioritize that is really, I think it's more important. But yeah, so I suppose after running my business, I exited that after a number of years, and I went to the other end of the spectrum in terms of e-commerce. I worked for SAP Hybris, which is an enterprise level, omni-channel software. So similar to kind of what Sean was saying about having a kind of a single view of your customer and having the data aligned on your customers. So really having, a small business view, and then, the other end of the spectrum, which is, more complexity. And just like John was saying there about, having product descriptions, I didn't appreciate up until that point how important your product descriptions are. And Hybris was built off of a product catalog manager software. So the core of Hybris now, which is, Hybris is used by, companies that have hundreds of millions of turnover, complex products, more complex than, let's say, selling meals or nutritional kind of products that I was used to. You're talking about like components for cars or building products like Joe sells, things like that, have industry kind of standard terms and things like that people might search for. So I really do, obviously, depending on your business, I do appreciate that. Yeah, if you don't have product descriptions in full detail, you really are, as John said, behind the 8 ball there. So I think that's really important. And then, like as Joe was saying, images are just extremely important. Like the ability to zoom in on an image and inspect it and things like that really helps conversion. So Hybris was very good for that. So
and an awful, in many ways, it was an awful pity they were bought by SAP. Because they were a really good standalone platform at the time, and we might have a slightly different landscape had that not happened. But it's a marriage that SAP needed, I guess, at the time. But you're right, the product, the PIM, the product information manager in Hybris was really good.
Yeah, and on top of that, they have that core PCM feeds into a very powerful search function on the front end, so people can literally type in a wide variety of different ways to describe something, and they'll be able to pinpoint and find it instantly, so that's very powerful. And I think, all businesses can learn from that. So from there, I dabbled in drop shipping from China, which was an absolute nightmare, but was kind of a hot trend at the time. And now I'm working in, part of a digital team with insurance. So, a wide variety of experience there. But I suppose the challenge that I see, if we go back to sort of the topic of the podcast, is, like I was saying, and Aisling mentioned it as well, is scaling up, and keeping the personal touch at the same time, and having that adaptability in your business, because anything can happen. Like, look at COVID, and people's behaviors change and their demands change, and who knows how things are going to happen. But regardless of what comes up, whether it's disruptive technologies like blockchain or AI or pandemics or whatever the case may be, I think having a proper way of working, a methodology to implementing your business is extremely important, more so important than it has ever been, because changes are becoming faster and faster. So, like, for example, if we think of e-commerce, like, one of the most painful, or the kind of big pain points that I see, certainly in insurance, because there's so much regulation, and it could probably apply to a lot of different products and services online, is just the customer identifying themselves. So obviously people can check out as a guest, but let's say with insurance, where you want to be able to log into a portal and manage your policies, or let's say B2B, where you want to be able to log into a portal and see your account and things like that. Just the initial account registration and verification of your account, and those kind of steps of setting up your registration with GDPR and things like that, it can be painful, for just to get started, and it kind of puts up a barrier to accessibility for customers. So if you look at blockchain now, like I see this as a macro trend over the next kind of 5 years. What's going to happen is services are going to be offered trustlessly. So you're going to be able to log in with a fingerprint or facial recognition. There's not going to be a requirement to, verify your email address and have this back and forth with the registration process. It's just going to be seamless, probably on your phone or through your camera on your laptop. Within a minute or two, you've registered, you can start trading. So I think that regardless of, whether it's blockchain or technology changing, I think something that I've learned in, working for, I suppose, bigger companies that have best practices, I think Scrum and a scaled agile framework, where that approach, whether you're small or medium or large company and you're a team, that's working in e-commerce, trying to, you're trying to obviously iterate on your design to improve your design, but you're also trying to innovate on your product or, create new features and functionality on your website. And then there's unplanned work that comes up as well. And there's, bugs and things like that. The scaled agile framework allows you to be able to drive your business forward in a very planned way, but also handle unplanned work. So I think having the yin and yang there of, planned versus unplanned work and being able to handle that and adapt to that is really, really important. And I think that's the challenge. And, I've seen it when it doesn't work, when a team is not aligned and people aren't looking in the same direction and, things crop up and people can't, the team can't, I suppose, adapt to disruptive technologies or bugs or, customer issues or whatever the case may be. I find that is the thing that, makes businesses extremely inefficient. And, obviously that's where customers go elsewhere, don't they? So,
yeah. I always thought about, we used to, if you remember the quality guys used to talk about mean time between failures. And I always thought it was much more important to focus on mean time to fix. So, my assumption was things were going to break. Hopefully not.
They are going to break,
but they're going to break.
Yeah,
and how quickly you can react and fix them.
Yeah,
is the measure that people will hold you to, if you like. Speed alleviates a lot of issues, and it's the same even with site navigation. Trying to develop a good customer journey that's responsive, that's quick, covers up an awful lot of sins sometimes. The thing that people won't forgive is a poor navigation that's slow. Yeah. They just will not forgive that, and increasingly so. So I think your point about being cognizant that you need to be fast, but fast in an organized way, I think is really important. Because the other thing we notice with omni-channel, people who are both offline and online, and Joe, I'm sure you probably come across this, is the two businesses operate at two different speeds. Digital businesses, like Book Resort, like, wherever, they're used to being able to pivot, change, mix very, very quickly. Whereas if I'm a traditional builders, providers, or some other business, I've been selling timber and concrete and whatever, since Moses was a boy. And, they're not just used to having to change that quickly. And you have to marry, and it's not that one side is right and one side is wrong, but you have to marry the two so that you don't end up, having a real problem in your hands.
John, I think we've come to a good conclusion, an accurate conclusion to a very, very good podcast today. We've heard some wonderful businesses. Can you give us your takeaways just as we finish up and wrap up for today?
Yeah, Brandon. I mean, as usual, we've had several different sort of perspectives, but the idea of being a digital business and transforming your business, like to James's point, it has to have a process and a system about it. It has to be organized, and you have to approach it with that mindset. And then I think it goes across to understanding the core things you have to get right. Like product descriptions, like being visible in the search engines. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate things, but if you can identify the basics and the real priorities and fix those, you know, and address those, then the rest, you know, becomes easier. And then, of course, in terms of you know, Book Resort and Ashling's business, in terms of thing I took from that was the variations and the changes, you know, as conditions changed, being able to, you know, broaden your product range, react to what people were looking for, you know, while trying to maintain a forecastable and predictable business and grow a subscription business. I mean, I think that's a really interesting challenge, and one that I think is a really nice foundation to build something really, really successful. And then the one thing that you have to wrap around all of this all of the time is really good service. And, you know, you need tools like eDesk and others, you know, out there to bring those queries in, make sure nobody drops the ball, make sure that you're getting back and you're meeting the customer wherever they want to meet you, you know, whether that's email, whether it's chat, whether it's by pigeon, you know, wherever they want to contact you, you sort of have to be there. Much and all as that's a pain, that's our expectation. And if we talk to a chat agent versus a phone agent or an email, we expect them all to have access to the same information and to know me and to know my problem. And that's not an easy challenge, but that's where you need to engineer the solution, you know, to make sure that you're addressing it correctly. So there were the themes, I think, around our sort of topic today, which says, look, you know, it's not about building a website. It's, you know, that's almost incidental. You know, it's about having a digital process and delivering an experience to the customer that matches what they expect and they trust, and will go forward with you from there.
Great. Well, John, as always, brilliant insights there. But I especially wanted to thank our panel, Aisling Fenn from the Book Resort.
Thanks a million for having me.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Aisling. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to receiving some books and chocolates in the book soon. Sean Broderick, the head of product marketing at eDesk. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, everybody.
And Joe Conella, who's the head of e-commerce and marketing at Buildforless.ie. And of course, James Statham, product owner at the AA Digital Product Team. So
Thanks, Brandon.
thanks to you all, and best of luck in your endeavors going forward.